I don't have a reason to die. I already know what I want to do. I already know what is my mission. For me, there is no separation of this world and the spiritual world. It's all one. And I'm a scientist myself. People are talking about longevity, escape velocity, right? And this is pretty much immortality. The more I live in a healthy condition, the more I can improve this world, because I can just keep on innovating, making impact and improving people's health, and there is no reason not to do it. You know, I had this amazing trip in Himalayas where I met Dalai Lama, and he touched my hand. I just bursted in tears, and I didn't ask any questions. Despite not asking any questions, I got all the answers.
Showtime.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully she arrives soon. I'm looking forward to an IV. When was the last time you had an IV?
Oh, it's been a while, actually.
I don't know whether we do the intro for you now or we wait to get hooked up to the IV. I guess, well, Elena, welcome. I met you last month, I think it was, in a random evening at a sauna, as one does in Bali.
That is correct.
Where you meet all the interesting people. But yeah, then soon discovered you a PhD researcher in stem cell, and you also have an amazing brand, NMN, which I tried your supplements the other day, and I had an amazing spike in my HRV from your sleep supplements, which was amazing. I'm super excited to try the rest of them. But I guess on a cliff note, how would you, from a top level, explain or introduce yourself to what it is that you do? Because I feel like you have quite a beautiful label, really. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I would describe myself as a scientist by training, but entrepreneur at heart. I love building ventures because this is the vehicle that helps me amplify my impact and innovate and improve people's lives, which is my life's mission, pretty much. I feel like I'm very fortunate because I found my purpose and my mission very early on in life, when I was 23 years old. And I realized when I actually made a difference into someone's health, that how important this is for them and how it changes their life, even if a change is incremental. So that the first time I felt it, I was driving my first car, which was a small Volkswagen Polo, a second-hand, car, like 4,000 euros that I proudly saved for and bought myself. And I was driving it back home after the conversation with this person, and I was feeling like I'm driving a Ferrari, because of the way that I made them feel and they made me feel back. And this is when I realized I want to feel this way for the rest of my life. I want to keep on doing this and helping people improve their health, because then everything else improves. As they say, you have 99 problems until you have a health problem, and then you only have one problem.
Yeah, so true. So you had that experience after helping someone close to you when you were 23.
Yes,
and
correct.
Then that gave you the feeling like you were driving a Ferrari.
Yes, absolutely. And interestingly, ever since I've drove all the supercars in the world, and I love driving cars actually, and this feeling, it never fades away. And it's actually it's always better than actually driving a Ferrari.
And you still get it every time you feel like you help someone?
Absolutely. When I'm reading our reviews online, for NMN Bio or supplement brand, I took your supplements and 2 months later my autoimmune disease is gone, right? So when I'm reading reviews like this, it's the same feeling every single time, doesn't fade away. And that's the reason why I do what I do. That's the reason why I continued my education through my master's and my PhD in stem cell biology, neurodegeneration. I ended up studying the pathways of aging. And back in 2018, I was studying NAD metabolism. And back then, no one knew what NAD is. It's very, very popular now. But I was actually studying it in the lab and treating my stem cells with it and differentiating stem cells into neuronal cells and then treating them with different kind of metabolites, NAD boosters, other compounds to see how this can rescue neurodegeneration. So from that research, I realized that actually by fixing your NAD levels or fixing the NAD levels in the cell, you can rescue so much damage that is being done through other molecular pathways. It's a very powerful molecule because it sits at the Krebs cycle, and without it you can't produce energy, right? You can't produce ATP. So by fixing that, you're actually tapping into the natural ability of the cells to streamline more than 300 processes, right? And some people call it the second most important molecule in your body after water, which is something that I agree with, actually.
So when did it get popular? I think, I want to say I feel like I remember it maybe 2020, 2021.
Yes.
I don't know when Dr. David Sinclair kind of
Exactly, around that time.
So you were kind of on it around the same time, or discovering it around that same time, or previously. Were you aware of his work back then? Was he someone that was
Eventually, yes.
Yeah.
I did discover his work back in 2017, 2018 already. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it was fascinating. And then what happened is that after finishing my PhD, I was looking into actually sourcing some NAD boosters for myself because I saw how efficient they are in the lab. And then I said, wait a minute, this is cool. You know, it's not a patented molecule. People already selling some of these NAD boosters online. Let me try it out for myself. And I always used to love experimenting with supplements myself my whole life. I remember having this idea of starting a supplement company way earlier. I just didn't know which direction to go to. So I'm buying this NMN supplement off Amazon UK, and back in the days there were only a couple of vendors selling it back in 2019. So I'm buying an NMN product, I take it, and this is when I was spending 16, 18 hours a day in the lab, right, finishing my PhD studies. So I was always tired, super busy. And then I take the NMN, and then 2 days later, I'm not tired anymore. And I'm like, wow, I've never felt this effect from a supplement before. This is amazing. So the bottle runs out, and then a month later, I go back to Amazon UK. This vendor is out of stock, so I'm buying from another vendor. And then again, a month is passing by, I'm feeling amazing. And then a month later, now this vendor is out of stock. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is interesting. So, this is when all the research started coming out. There was first there was a safety study published on NAD boosters showing that they're safe for human consumption. Then 2016 was, I think, the safety study. Then 2017, 2018, a couple of other small human clinical trials came out showing that it's also very efficient. And what struck me was that if you look at research across different models, so cell models, animal models, human studies, it's super consistent, which is usually not the case with most of the compounds that are being sold under a specific indication. So I said, okay, this is interesting. So the studies are coming out, it's safe, it's efficient, and there is not enough supply on the market. There is already a demand, and I can't get it. The vendors keep on running out of stock. So I realized I have a product market fit. And then I realized that actually I also have a founder market fit because I'm literally studying it in the lab. So I said, you know what? This looks very, very interesting. Let me see how I can organize this. So I was wrapping up my PhD thesis. So now we're at this Corona era, right? So everyone is under house arrest pretty much in the UK. The lab has closed down. I'm just writing my thesis, and I'm researching the suppliers now. And I'm seeing how I can organize the supply chain to launch a high quality supplement, very good quality NMN, and how I can get it done. And this is how I started NMN Bio back in 2020, just like an e-commerce store. And
so COVID birth child.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
When you were first taking NMN, were you doing it powder in water or under the tongue, capsule? How were you?
Yeah, it actually doesn't make much difference. If you're taking it in powder or in capsules. So I prefer capsules everything for myself personally. I don't like powders. I just swallow the pills, and that works for me. And actually, we did have an SKU with a product in a powder pouch, but it wasn't that popular, so we actually discontinued it. So all of our line now is just capsules. Yeah.
And then I want to go back to when you said at 23, what was that experience? Who did you help? that sent you on your journey?
Yeah, so my first degree was actually psychology and cognitive neuroscience. So after that, I started my first business, which was a wellness center, and I was working with patients with psychological and neurological disorders. So I was also working with autistic children. So I was talking actually to the mother of one of those children that we were doing the different treatments with. I had like a neurofeedback device back then and like a couple of other like cool interventions. But mind you, there is no cure for autism, right? So whatever we were doing, it was pretty much palliative care. Right? So just to improve the symptoms a bit and so on. So I'm talking to this mother of this child, and actually back then I already started researching nutrition as well. So I told her, look, I'm looking into this new diet approach. If you want, like we can experiment and I can suggest to you like cut off gluten from his diet and this and that. And she said, Elena, like just with the sessions that we're doing with you, you've already changed our life so much you can't even imagine, because we go back home after the sessions with you and he doesn't have the nervous breakdowns anymore. We can communicate with him better. So you already changed our life so much just with the sessions that whatever it is you're going to suggest to me, I'm going to do it, no questions asked. And I was like, whoa, I did this? And now there is this mother that puts so much trust in me that she says that she's going to try out pretty much anything that I say, yes. So this was the aha moment, and I realized how important it is for people in difficult situation, difficult health situation, if you can provide just a bit of improvement, how important it is and how life-changing it is. Because then the train of thought was that, okay, well, this is what I can do with palliative care. Imagine if I can cure a disease, right? And that's the reason why after that, so I actually took a break after my bachelor's for 5 years because I was running my first business, which was a successful business. It grew into 2 branches, into 2 different cities back in Greece and so on. It was operating profitably. And then I realized, no, I need to go deeper. Like I need to understand the science. I want to continue the studies. So then I did my master's in translational neuroscience and neurodegeneration. And then I did the PhD to go even further, even deeper into genetics and cell biology to understand the processes and how I can hijack them pretty much to improve people's health. And this is where, of course, my personal interest for biohacking comes from.
What are your thoughts on autism now? I have a couple of family members with this, my nephew, and I went down some rabbit holes looking, and there's some people that are saying they've cured it in kids, and some people say it's food initiated. Some people say there's some vaccines that can help kind of induce it. Did you do much further delving down this and find any interesting studies that look like it's promising in that area?
So there are a couple of things here, and autism is a spectrum, right? So it's quite broad, and there are the environmental factors, such as indeed nutrition and environmental load. So toxins that come either from the food or the environment or vaccines. So whatever, let's say, physical disturbance can come into the body and modify either on an epigenetic level or on a genetic level, right? So that's there, and at the same time, it looks like there are indeed some genes that someone is born with, where you basically have a different brain configuration, let's say. So you have like much more neuronal density in the autistic people's brains, and this is where the spectrum comes in, because actually if you're on the spectrum and you are just towards, let's say, the ADHD edge, this actually where you can still communicate efficiently with the outside world, because there are some autistic children that don't speak at all, for example, right? So for them, living in this world is quite difficult. They do require assisted living in many occasions. But If you are towards the other end of the spectrum, which is more functional, and you still have the neuronal density, this actually gives you a competitive advantage in many things in life. I have so many entrepreneurial friends in Dubai that are like billionaires because of their ADHD, which is actually insane. So so in many cases, I wouldn't label it as a disease because it's actually a neurodiversity condition where if you know how to manage it and if you know how to streamline attention, for example, in an efficient way, and you put on top of this good food, natural food, you reduce the environmental toxin, like it becomes your advantage.
Yeah, on that theory of the spectrum, we're all kind of on it to a degree when I look at it. I was like, oh.
A lot of entrepreneurs are
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, because what it does, it makes you see patterns where others still don't see them. So you detect, oh, Bitcoin, what is this, right? Let me buy some Bitcoin in 2012 or whatever. This looks interesting.
I wish I was that type of audience. Yeah, no, it seems to be studies showing that it's increased an incredible amount of how common it is now for people to be on the spectrum. And this whole new realm or category of neurodivergence has kind of come forward, which is an interesting space to look into of like how broad it is and what it covers. And sometimes when you're looking for answers, I think I have some friends that like, oh my God, I found out exactly how I operate in optimal and what I need in order to like be flourishing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So interestingly, like I think that sometimes people are also misdiagnosed because there are many conditions that come from, again, environmental load and ultra-processed foods, and they just make your brain not perform like in a typical way. And then people just get diagnosed with autism or being on the spectrum left and right. And actually the underlying problem is our food supply. Like food supply chains. And this is actually something that I recently realized that I also want to make a contribution into because, I had this amazing trip in Himalayas very recently where I met Dalai Lama, and it was a spiritual strategic journey where I was reflecting on my mission as well. And I realized that with the current setup, the business is doing incredibly well. We are number one brand in longevity, both in the UK and UAE retail. In UAE, we're in over 600 pharmacies. We're the number one NMN provider in the UAE, so we provide over 70% of the UAE market. Thank you so much. Aster Pharmacies, Supercare, Dubai Duty Free, Bin Sina Pharmacies, everyone is stocking us. But I realized that I'm actually playing a very small game. Because
how dare you?
No, because if I think about, okay, well, how do I improve the health of 1 billion people? It's not going to be through niche longevity supplements, or it's going to take an incredibly long time, right, to popularize it to such a level by visiting remote areas, for example, in the Himalayas, and seeing how people actually live and what do they eat, what do they have access to, what kind of foods, because you have all these little stores with all of this, basically carbohydrates and ultra processed foods, and they are kind of like it's not many other things available there, right? So how do I tap into that? How do I change that? And how do I improve that? Because the other thing is that around 90% of the global population has some sort of nutrient deficiencies, right? And this is something that contributes massively to the development of chronic diseases. And actually the top 4 diseases, that is cardiovascular disease, cancer, neurodegeneration, diabetes, those are the number one indication, like the number one parameter that is related to the onset of those diseases is the patient's age. And then number 2 is also insulin resistance. So for neurodegeneration, so Alzheimer's disease is actually called diabetes type 3, right? Because you do develop insulin resistance in the brain, and then there is a bunch of other pathological mechanisms in the brain, because with insulin rising, you have oxidative stress. With oxidative stress, they just scratch the neurons, so they scratch the axons, so your neurotransmission becomes worse, right? Like the cells are like, they need to invest more into repairing themselves. So then this activates all kinds of enzymes like sirtuins and PARPs, which are also called longevity enzymes, right? But now, because they're dealing with the damage that is being done because of the insulin resistance, they don't have much resource left to actually, for longevity. That's the thing, right? But if you actually end up addressing this mechanism somehow, and you bring down the neuroinflammation, because neuroinflammation goes hand in hand with oxidative stress. So then again, we go back to insulin resistance, right? So everything starts with insulin resistance in the body. It's the number one enemy of longevity. Like, I'm very convinced of that by all the
So do we
evidence.
need to make like NMN and retatrutide noodles?
No noodles, no carbs. Let's not do noodles. But actually, there are quite simple rules that you can follow on your day-to-day life, and everyone can do this for free, which is, for example, the sequence of food that you're eating. So first, you would eat the fiber in order to coat the gut, and then you would eat protein and fat, for example, steak and eggs and cheese. And then at the end, if you want to eat some noodles, you can have the noodles at the end. You can have the bread at the end, right? So this is very important, because this will already minimize the insulin spike in the blood.
It's typically reversed right now. They serve bread first when you go to a
Yeah,
restaurant.
exactly. This is a marketing scam, by the way.
Fruits at the end. There should be fruit and the fibers first.
Fruit also contains fructose, so fruit is also at the end, but vegetables, yes. So vegetables at the start.
We'll start gas bagging again once the needles in her nose. You were saying before about NMN being one of the best things you've seen for like regeneration, helping with, I can't remember the word you said, what it was.
It's very efficient, like in terms of supporting multiple cellular processes, because it boosts the NAD. It's actually the NAD that does the job, but NAD is a big molecule by itself, so it's you're not really taking it orally.
You can go. Do you like NAD IVs or NAD peptides? What's your thoughts on that? Because I saw some stuff that's like, actually it's better to concentrate, or just as important to concentrate on the precursors for producing it.
Yes, this is what I believe as well. So what happens when you do an NAD IV is that it just spikes your NAD levels for a day or two, and then it goes back down. So most of it is not being absorbed, it's not entering your cells. But if you're taking the NMN orally on a daily basis, it's going to support your NAD levels. It's going to give you like an elevated NAD baseline, basically, and there is no reason to stop taking it. So you can take it every day pretty much forever. This is what I've been doing for the past 7 years, pretty much, right? Because I started taking it back in 2019 and I never stopped. I loved it so much that I organized my own supply chain.
It's working. You have great skin.
Thank you.
So what's your thoughts on then doing, is there any use or benefits from doing like IV or peptide? I guess peptide because you can do it every other day.
Yeah. I mean, so NAD specifically, I wouldn't do in a drip. Like, I don't see a reason for it. I would take oral precursor like NMN. And then, with different kind of peptides, you have different kinds of efficiencies. And for NAD boosting specifically, I just go down to the oral route, and that's about it.
I even came across NMN IVs as well, people doing precursor IVs as well.
Yeah, but again, there is no reason to do it this way, right?
Yeah.
Because it's intrusive, it's painful, it's expensive, you have to organize it, it's not very efficient. But we do have data that show that NMN actually spikes your NAD in the blood within 15 minutes. So there is no reason not to take it in an oral form. So that's actually one thing. The other thing to consider is that when you take something to boost your NAD levels, you also need to make sure that your NAD is not leaking, because NAD serves as a substrate for so many biological processes. But, for example, chronic inflammation is also going to be draining your NAD levels, because the body's anti-inflammatory response is NAD dependent. So for that reason, you want to also eliminate the factors that could be draining your NAD, and you can also make sure that you actually modify this with supplements as well. So for example, at NMN Bio, we have the NMN, which is the NAD booster, and then we have a supplement that came out of my research at the University of Birmingham during my PhD studies, which is called NAD Brain. So we published the mechanism in Cell Reports, and what we showed is that you actually need to stop the NAD from leaking from your brain, and you can do that with several compounds, such as, for example, apigenin. So apigenin blocks the inflammatory enzyme CD38, and we know that CD38 activity goes up with age as we're getting older, and we have our baseline of inflammation everywhere in the body, including the brain, is increasing. So we actually modify this process. We also have fisetin in the NAD brain blend, which is a xenomorphic compound. So it's also keeping the senescent cells, the zombie cells that do produce SASP, so senescence associated secretory phenotype, at bay, and a few other ingredients in there that actually reduce neuroinflammation, fight the oxidative stress in the body, and stop this whole process that would eventually be draining your NAD.
Now you're going to have to try and keep talking and get a needle stuck in your eye.
Okay, let's see how this is going to work. Never done this before. Well, look, I love having new experiences, right? So...
You'll check their feet?
Yeah. Let's do this.
You mentioned before cerebrolysin. Is this one of the things that you would say is also a big needle mover for neurological?
Yes, for brain function, for sure, because it literally makes your brain grow new neurons at an adult age, right? So it's very interesting how it works. It's basically from it's derived from pig brains, right? But it basically activates your own nerve growth factor, and it's a prescribed drug in many countries. I believe in the US as well. It's prescribed as a drug after stroke. Right, in Europe, it is also prescribed for several indications, but actually, a healthy person can tap into this by doing a course of cerebrolysin and just improve their pretty much neuroplasticity, right? Because you grow new neurons, you have more synaptic connections, the whole circuit starts working better. So,
how do they usually go with finding your vein? Is it easy?
It is not easy, no.
I saw her looking then. Maybe the hand. You can prop this pillow underneath you.
Yeah, I mean, this.
When you shared your story about getting lit up and so much energy from helping people,
Yes.
Was there an element where you thought maybe you wanted to do medical?
Yeah, I thought of this, but again, I don't like seeing blood, and I don't like all this stuff, the needle stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was also a factor.
How do you go with giving yourself peptides?
I'm just looking the other way.
You just look and say.
Yeah, I'm just saying this.
I remember when I first did that, I was, I think it was around 8, almost 9 years ago, I first discovered peptides, and I had an injury, and he gave it to me, and I was like, I felt like a junkie. I was like, what am I doing with these needles? I couldn't do it. I was like,
Yeah. There are people that do the peptides to themselves, I don't know how they do it.
You can't do it to yourself now?
No.
I built up to it. I can do it now. I'm fine.
Okay.
You have to get someone else to do it for
I
you?
thought of it, yeah.
But you're doing it like every day, so who's doing it for you?
Yeah, I'm going to the clinic or the nurse comes or
Yeah,
whatever,
okay.
yeah. I thought of
High
doing
maintenance peptide taker.
Yeah.
That's actually something, it's an adoption curve for a lot of people too. Like, it's like, how do you get comfortable with sticking a needle in your arm? So, like,
Yeah.
in Dubai, they offer, nurses come to the house each day to give you the jab.
Yeah, so it's convenient.
Do you go to them or they come to you? That could be a lot of people to see.
No, they come to me as well, no problem. Yeah.
That's a good service.
I thought of doing the injection training myself so I can do it to myself, but I haven't done so yet, and frankly, I don't want to. It's not such a huge pain point. People can just do this to me.
The needle's so small though.
Yeah. No, I can't.
You mentioned you went to the Dalai Lama on a random, spontaneous, invitational trip.
Yes. It was on a 5-day notice. Yeah.
Which, honestly, all the best things in life are on a 5-day notice. Honestly, some of the best experiences I've ever had have just been on a quick, just wind it.
Yeah.
How was it meeting him? And I'm curious, as a scientist, how do you perceive that spiritual realm? Or you mentioned, we had a brief chat before, and you said someone asked them the question, what was the meaning of life?
Yes.
I'm curious how you put your world together in that department.
For me, there is no separation of this world and the spiritual world. It's all one, because I feel like there are things that are proven by science, and I'm a scientist myself, and most of the things that I do are usually evidence-based, with an occasional sprinkle of spontaneity where I decide to go to the Himalayas on a 5-day notice. And I just felt it, I received the message. So this was from someone that I know from Dubai. It was an exclusive group, because usually in order to get an audience with him, you have to book it months in advance, and you have to have your ways and, know how to do it. So not everyone can go and meet Dalai Lama and have a private audience with him. But from my connections, it's actually a group of Russian entrepreneurs from Dubai, very high net worth. One of the youngest Forbes billionaires was there, at age 25. And then they somehow managed to organize this spiritual strategic trip for us, and they managed to get the date for the audience with him on the 2nd of June, and my birthday was on the 3rd of June, right? So when I saw the message, I'm like, wow, this is I don't think anything can top off this birthday gift, so I have to go. I can't not go. How can I get it done? What do I need to organize before my trip so I can go? And then it happened, and interestingly, you can pretty much feel his energy from hundreds of meters away. We were staying at a hotel that was overlooking his residence. So in the morning of the audience, I woke up and I could feel his presence somehow. And when we were approaching, I could feel it more and more. And I was formulating the questions that I wanted to ask him for days in my head. I'm like, oh, I should ask him about longevity. I should ask him about this and this and this. And then as we were approaching, I could feel this extremely powerful field of energy. And when I did approach him and he touched my hand, I just bursted in tears, and I didn't ask any questions. And I felt despite not asking any questions, I got all the answers. And the answers were that I already know what I want to do. I already know what is my mission. I already know the next 100 steps. It's not about that. It's about feeling, and it's about acting from the heart. It's about not being afraid to be vulnerable in front of strangers that see you for the first time and see you sobbing in front of Dalai Lama and taking pictures. I'm like, oh my God. So this was definitely the whole experience was out of my comfort zone, and I got the answers that I needed from that trip. And then someone else from the group asked him what is the meaning of life, to which he replied that, well, the meaning of life is actually to get out of the wheel of samsara and to actually break the cycle of reincarnation. But on a practical level for us, it's to live every day with love and compassion and not let any day to go to waste, basically was his answer. This is what he said. So again, the conclusion for me from that answer was that, like, we choose to assign meaning to our life every day and make every day meaningful. And this is what I got out of it. And this is what is related to my mission as well. What do I do for my mission every day, not only in terms of selling products that improve people's health, but also education, for example. This is something else that I really want to have impact on and that I will be moving forward with at a much larger scale, because I can see how just information, just education, and now, we're all connected through the internet, like 6 billion people have access to the internet. So you can educate them about simple things, like I said, the sequence of food that will minimize your insulin spikes if you eat your salad first, right? And then you do this every day, the results stock up, because then, like, you offset disease by a few years just by doing this every day. So then you're able to have more healthy years with your loved ones, enjoying life, spreading joy, making impact in other people's lives with your presence and good health. So this is important for me.
I have written on a little whiteboard in my room, what story are you telling yourself today? Because we're always creating meaning on something, and it's like, I like what you said then about the Dalai Lama. It's like you're
assigning meaning.
Yeah, but your mission is also just to live in love and compassion every day. And it's like, if you're not choosing love and compassion every day, then it's not a fulfilling life. It's like, it's such a good reminder to be like, you have the opportunity to choose love and compassion every day. And sometimes you wake up, I'm stressed about this and doing this and that. It's like, wait, why am I choosing that? It's a beautiful reminder. And what an epic confirmation you got going there and realizing exactly, I'm on purpose. I know exactly the next 100 steps I need to do, and getting clarity on that. I think that in itself is priceless.
Yes, for sure. Yes, and I was amused by how much weight they put on their realization that love and compassion actually can, like, rule everything in this life. And interestingly also, there is two sides of this coin, and in order to be able to help others, you have to help yourself first. So they also preach this part, like in the Tibetan monasteries, like we were talking to other lamas as well, to monks, that were saying that love and compassion first, it starts with you. So you have to take care of yourself. And it makes sense, right? Because, for example, if you're struggling with covering your basic expenses in life, you don't have much capacity to help others, for instance, right? So you have to first build a thorough foundation for yourself, not only financially, but health-wise, right? Like, if you're not healthy, you can't help other people. This is where I come in. And then also, like, how do you grow yourself in a person that is focusing on the right things? So, like, this also comes with some maturity in life, I feel. Those realizations come a bit later on in life, not in your 20s for most people. Yeah.
I can't argue with that there. I guess I want to ask you something about your company. What was the most hardest thing, or the difficult part of setting this up and getting it to market? Was there any, like, clicking points, or you, like, discovered it was easy to connect the dots and it just kind of felt divine in the way it all unfolded?
So for me, like, the commercial part was actually easy so far, because what I did and what made it easy is that I was always focusing on the quality of the product. So we don't compete on price, we compete on quality, and this resonates a lot with our customers and our distributors, right? So there are plenty of NMN brands out there, but there is a reason why we are the leading brand in pharmacies, right? So high-end retailers, both in UK and UAE, choose us. So in the UK, we're on Boots.com. We're the first NMN on Boots.com. We were the first one in the pharmacy in Selfridges, and so on. We have a couple of other reputable retailers, and then in UAE. And the reason for that is that they know that their customers are going to get the best product, the highest quality product on the market, right? So when this is your USP and the customer gets repeated super positive experience with the product, because with most supplements you take them and nothing happens by the time that the ball runs out, but you take an NMN Bio product and each and every one of them, we have 6 of them now, it basically like you feel the effect within a few days. So with NMN, like a couple of days later, you're going to feel like you're going to have like better energy and focus levels, right? You're not going to have the afternoon energy crush anymore. With NAD brain, you're going to take it, and within 20 minutes, you're going to feel more focus and alertness. With magnesium, just like you did, you take it and your HRV goes up on the first dose, right? So because we offer this quality of ingredients to our customers, it's very easy to scale through retailers that resonate with us and want their customers to have a great experience. So for that reason, the commercial part was easy, getting the distributors. The biggest distributor that we got was Aster Pharmacy, which is the biggest pharmaceutical conglomerate in the Middle East, and they actually came to us because they were screening for an NMN brand from Europe or UK to onboard to their 250 plus pharmacies, and then they just chose us because of our quality. So the hardest part for me personally was probably the HR part so far. So I'm a goal-oriented person. I'm not a community-oriented person, so it doesn't come naturally to me managing people, I would say. But again, this is something that as the team scales, other people are also taking care of. And to be honest, I don't feel like I work a day in my life. That's the thing, right? So it feels easy every day because I just do what I love.
Yeah. I always say that 2 of the biggest growth accelerators or containers for growth is business and relationships. I think when you're running a business, you have to, same way in a relationship, some of your things pop up when you're managing a team, being a better leader. It's like, all right, I need to grow here, or sink or swim, basically.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Outside of NMM, NAD, is there anything else you're excited about or you've discovered in your inquiries and research that you're keeping your eye on for what's to come in this realm of longevity, health and wellness?
Well, I think that stem cell protocols are becoming better and better every day, pretty much. So we've done a lot of progress in the past few years in terms of how we're organizing those protocols, how we're optimizing them, how we're optimizing engraftment of the cells when they get administered to human tissue. So I think that we will keep on having amazing improvements in this realm as well, not just for injuries, but for tissue rejuvenation, specific tissue rejuvenation. So I think this is also something that is going to move the needle in terms of slowing down the aging process and offsetting physical decline.
Do you want to be in a lab doing research and testing these things out? I guess Dr. David Sinclair right now with this Yamanaka factors and human trials. Is that something you can see yourself being involved in?
Absolutely. Yeah. I actually would love to go back to the lab and do some research, especially now. I might have mentioned to you, so I'm also a co-founder at an AI project So we created a proprietary math model that can analyze data points in a way that they have never been analyzed before. I can't tell you too much about it yet because it's still unpublished, but we're going to publish the paper very soon in the next month or so. Basically, we have the capability to look into interaction of different compounds and interact and do in silico modeling of compound to tissue interaction as well with this model. So it would be great to actually set up a lab. This is what we're looking at right now. This would be the next step for me to do our own proprietary R&D with this new AI software.
That's exciting. Where would you want to set up a lab if it goes down that road?
To be decided.
Yeah. No country favorites?
Look, I think that in the UAE right now there is so much progress in everything. So they've built the UAE layer by layer. So first it was the tourism industry, then they built the financial industry. You know, they have the DIFC, you know, Dubai Financial District. They are very friendly to fintech and crypto startups. So they build that sector for next. And I think the next one that will be built is going to be the biotech in the UAE, because they're already building a science park, right? So I can see a lot of money and companies moving into Dubai for biotech as well. So because I already have a base in the UAE, I spent the past 5 years, most of my time I spent in the UAE. I can see myself, you know, opening a lab in the UAE as well, but again, to be decided.
They just also, I think, formalized longevity research and as a health department kind of thing.
Yeah, they launched the Dubai Longevity Authority, which is absolutely amazing. So the initiatives coming out of the UAE keep on surprising me. You know, like I have so much admiration for the government of the UAE, and probably that's the reason why I felt so at home living there for the past 5 years, because, you know, and like, they create an amazing community where 90% of Dubai is expats, but actually everyone feels at home. Yes, and they give you the tools to thrive and to evolve and to innovate. Like amazing minds, amazing entrepreneurs are moving to Dubai, and they will keep on doing so, I think.
I haven't been there in half a decade now, I think even more.
You should come visit.
Yeah, I definitely will. Is there any downside to living there in the sense of, like, when I was there, I didn't really experience much traffic, but I'm told now there's a bit more traffic. But when I was there was so much options for
everything.
Everything in Israel. But I was like, what?
Yeah, from fine dining to sound healing, where you're floating in a pool and you're having an amazing tranquil experience.
Wellness hotels, I've seen some there, and apartment buildings like sanctioned around. I forget the name of it. I think it's
Syro.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'd love to go check that out.
Yeah, this is actually a nice place to stay. I've stayed there before.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but is there any downside to Dubai that you have to subtract from living in another city?
So traffic is being fixed now because they're building underground tunnels. So this is going to be solved soon. And then
so efficient. That's great.
Absolutely, that's the thing. They're optimizing everything for efficiency. It's amazing. The only downside I would say is that it's too hot in summer, but in summer you leave.
All my friends.
So you know, it is what it is. Although they are building initiatives to make your stay comfortable in summer as well. You know, like indoor tunnels that connect shopping malls with nearby buildings, for example, things like that. So you actually don't even have to go out. You know, and
That's
then inside the shopping mall you have, you know, ice skating and, you know, whatever you can think of, like whatever entertainment you can think of, you can find it in Dubai. So absolutely amazing to live in. For me, it's like the #1 city in the world to live right now.
What I really like about it too is the access to. It's like the Dubai airport's such a hub, and it's especially growing up living in Australia, now living in Bali, Indonesia. We want to go anywhere; it's far. So living in Dubai and having access, like within
everything,
basically anywhere within 5 or 6 to 7 hours, is a huge upside.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, but again, like I love traveling in Asia during summer, so I always do. But
Well, during the summer, the hot season in Dubai, it's the perfect season here. Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, that's why I'm here.
I'm curious, did you ever consider, or would you ever consider going to apply to work with Dr. David Sinclair? I think I saw something a while ago. They were doing programs there. It seems to me from the outside, it looks like a pretty cool projects they're working on.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't exclude it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Has a lot of his own things going on.
Yeah. Is there anything other than that? I only really know the Yamamaka effect, that's why I keep coming back to it, and the human trials they're doing. But I also saw some stuff in Japan where they were saying that they might have unlocked something. People can have a lifespan up to 250 years.
Yes. So the current configuration that we have as humans, it's pretty much capping us at around 120, 125 years old in terms of our genes and epigenetic regulation. If we can crack that, so then this threshold is going to move. I'm very excited about it. I think, we're going to have a lot of progress, like with all of the AI that is being thrown at it as well right now. And eventually, I think that in our lifetime, like I'm very optimistic that we're going to have some treatments coming out of different labs, including David Sinclair's.
But until today, they haven't cracked it, really. There's just some theories.
Well, or have they? Because people
so
have because people have actually been doing some genetic treatments and altering some of their genes, such as follistatin, for example, and telomerase, for quite a few years now. I don't know if you're familiar with Liz Parrish and what she's doing with her company in the US. So she was actually patient 0 for telomerase treatment, and she did like a set of 4 genes, I think telomerase, follistatin, I don't remember what the other 2 are, but she did it to herself like back in 2016. So this was 10 years ago. I met her a couple of years ago. She looks amazing, and interestingly, she reported to me some very unusual findings, let's say. So she basically, we were sitting at the breakfast in the hotel. We were at a Profound Health Summit in the UK, which is an amazing conference, by the way. So we're going to be speakers again together in October. This October, like feel free to pass by.
Yeah, maybe
It's a very low key.
Health.
It's not a commercial like establishment. It's not like all this health optimization summit and like 4,000 attendees. No, it's low key, but you really have the specialists in the fields of longevity, clinic owners and doctors that actually know what they're doing, like gathering there. So Profound Nutrition is also my distributors in the UK, one of my distributors. So they invited me also to talk about NAD. So this is going to be my talk on the 10th of October. And then, so last time we were sitting at the breakfast table and Liz is just getting some carbs, some croissants and all this to eat. And I'm like, oh, wow, you're eating carbs, like I was surprised. And then you know what she said, actually, because of the genetic treatment, my HbA1c doesn't go up. So actually she's eating carbs and she doesn't develop insulin resistance. And then I said, well, are you fasting? And she said, no, Elena, I cannot fast because of the genetic treatment. My metabolic rate is so high. It's like I'm a teenager. I have to be eating all the time because I just can't afford to do intermittent fasting because I'll start losing weight. And then you touch her muscles and they're like super hard, basically, like she's a bodybuilder or something, although she looks normal. So there is definitely, I saw it with my own eyes, that actually if you do the genetic treatment that tweaks the activity of your gene somehow, it does modify your phenotype, it does modify how your body functions, which is very interesting. And then she was showing us her data that her telomeres are actually growing back up Yes, so they're increasing and they keep on being elongated all this time. They published the white paper as well that it doesn't mess up with development of cancer as well. So it's actually, so, you know, she looks great. Like it's been 10 years, you know, she's healthy, no side effects.
It's
It's
like
very
a one-time
interesting.
treatment she did 10 years ago? It's like an ongoing thing?
She either did once or twice. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's a one-off. It's a permanent gene modification. You have those cheaper constructs that you can do somewhere in the Caribbean, which is not going to be a permanent gene modification. So it's like, I think Brian Johnson did this. And it's like just $50,000 and then, you know, it fades off after a couple of years, something like that. But Lee's did the permanent thing, right? So this is at $1 million per shot, and then you get permanent gene modification.
Where does she do that?
She did it somewhere in South America because it wasn't legal to do in the U.S. So they had to fly into South
Like
America.
she discovered it and then took it there for them
So
to
she
do it?
set
or they
up
were
the
already doing
company.
it?
It's her
Yeah.
company, and she was patient zero. Yeah,
What's that company called now?
BioViva.
BioViva.
Yeah. So Liz is coming back to the Profound Health Summit as well.
That'd be cool to come check out.
Yeah.
It's interesting that in South America it's like a whole other world too. You go there and there's like a lot more research and development happening that
Yes,
isn't always
absolutely.
publicly spoken about.
Yeah, there are some stem cell clinics there as well, and it looks like they know what they're doing. They have a lot of research that they're doing in-house as well.
Is there anything you're curious or open to trying, or where does your like risk to metric lie when you're like, I need to wait for a bunch more study and research to be done, or is like there's enough on that, I'll give it a shot?
Well, when it comes to stem cells, it's not that much about the risk, but rather the efficiency and the engraftment percentage, because there are some protocols that actually, you know, like you do the stem cell treatment, and after a few days, you want to scan for how many of those cells have actually been engrafted in your tissues, and it's just like a very low number, like 2%.
What is the
So-
test to scan to see how many
You
grafts?
just you would just tag them with something, and then you would do a blood test, and you would measure
See
the
how many
tag.
are in the blood, yeah.
Yeah, it can be like anything. So that's pretty easy to do, but again, like, so the efficiencies, what I'm like, I would be curious about, and with the genetic treatment, with everything that I've seen so far, I'm actually pretty convinced. Like, I think that I can, like, I would be interested in doing this to myself quite soon.
And on which level is that? That's like Clotho or...
Yeah, Clotho could actually be the other one that she did. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so pretty interesting stuff. You know, I think we're already there because people are talking about longevity escape velocity, right?
Yeah.
And that, like, by the time that we will be able to reverse our age for more than a year, within a year, this means that we start aging backwards. We start, you know, offsetting the aging process. And, you know, and this is pretty much immortality. So I think we're already there with all the data that I've seen from Lee's with her telomerase treatment, from, you know, other doctors. Dr. Lawrence from the US, he's using peptide bioregulators. So peptide bioregulators is just chains of short-term amino acids, and short-chain amino acids. So, and you take it in an oral form. It's not like a peptide. You don't have to inject it. You can take it in an oral form. And what they do is they are tissue-specific. So there are also extracts from different tissues of an animal. You can have bovine, you can have porcine. And what they do is you would take a peptide bioregulator for the thyroid gland, for example, and then it would actually activate the production, the hormonal, like it would stimulate the hormonal function of this tissue, of this gland in this particular instance. And Dr. Lawrence was actually showing us those very interesting data from his patients. So he's working a lot with like Olympic athletes, high performers, you know, and he also has data where their telomeres are growing back up. He has data where their biological age is going down, like within 4 years, they reverse 25 years of chronological age,
Wow.
which is insane.
20-25 years.
Yeah, so I've seen this data, like I've seen it myself.
Have
like
you seen
it's
them doing
already
anywhere
there.
with like the skin organ that's being regenerated? Because I feel like that's the one thing that looks...
So I know that the Peptide Bioregulator company is looking into launching something like this now. Yes, so they're working on it.
And where's Dr. Lawrence based?
I think it's somewhere in the West Coast, I believe. Yeah, maybe Florida. Yeah, very interesting product line as well, the peptide bioregulators. So they're also based on Russian research as well. So very like a lot of published data already. Some of it is in Russian. Fortunately for me, I speak Russian and I can read Russian, so I read all about it.
Fortunately, we have ChatGPT for this now.
Yes. Yeah, so it can be done easily. Like very interesting line.
It's interesting because it actually feels like it's 24 months away almost.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is how it feels to me. And this is why I'm so excited to go back to the Profound Health Summit.
What's happened?
And learn about all the developments.
It's such an interesting time to be alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
If you could choose, if we can escape the longevity velocity, and you could choose how long you wanted to live, when you actually were done with this, what would that... It's an interesting thing to sit with. How long would you want to live for?
I don't have a reason to die.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it's very, like our world is fascinating for me. And I feel like if I could live forever, there is no reason not to do it. Because the more I live in a healthy condition, the more impact I can make, the more I can improve this world, the more I can experience the world myself as well. Like there is no reason not to do it, because I can just keep on innovating, making impact and improving people's health, and there is no reason not to do it. What about yourself?
I don't know. I would say that would I have done everything after 150 years to be like, okay, now it's like...
Yeah, maybe I would also change my mind after 200 years. I don't know.
Let me go meet my maker, but then I don't know what the world would look like then. And then one thing that pops into my mind is like, okay, does having children become a thing then? Because it's like, do we overpopulate the world if no one's dying?
Yeah, but I don't think that this is going to be implemented across everyone in the population, and I don't think that everyone would want it as well. Like the way I see it is that I think that we're going to have, like the world is going to divide into, you know, basically the same divide that we have in wealth, we're going to have in health.
Yeah.
You know, have you watched the movie Elysium, which is the dystopian version of what I'm describing?
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, some of us will choose this path for one reason or another, and some of us will not. So
it's interesting because if I look at my life now, I'm 35 years old. Let's say the first 15 to 18 years, well, the first 10 years, you're kind of just figuring it out. You don't really know what's going on. And then even up to, I'd say, the first 15 to 18 years, you're coming into adulthood. And then you have from 20 to 70 is this era of being an adult human. And then it kind of starts to taper off a little bit like what it did towards becoming like an infant where you needed care. So the idea of being able to live 120 strong, healthy years, and now I'm like, well, I'm not even a quarter of a way through my life yet.
Yeah,
it's so much more to live and do. I might spend some time.
It's very unusual. That's the thing. Like we haven't been taught to think this way, right? We haven't been taught that we can have a career change multiple times in our lives, right? Yeah. And we can make more impact into different areas of our lives. We can start multiple families if we want. We can do whatever in good health, right? That this was not the model so far. So we kind of have to adjust our mindset to this as well. And this is what I've been doing, because the people that usually tell me, oh, Elena, you would be bored in 200 years. They just haven't thought it through.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that it could be a very interesting, fascinating journey.
I'm definitely here for it. If we were to future imagine now, it's another 50 years time and we've already escaped longevity, velocity.
We still look like this.
Still look like this, or even maybe better. Yeah. And what else would you want to explore in life? Or was there any other, like you just mentioned that I don't know what my career identities, different things I would do. Is there any other thing that you're like, oh, if I wasn't doing this, I would be definitely here?
So in my life, I already have defied some of the social norms so far, because, you know, society tells you to have children when you're 25 or 30 and whatever. Like, I took 11 years in university to get my degrees because I wanted to really get down the rabbit hole on how do I tweak human biology, and for that I needed specialized knowledge. So I sacrificed my 20s for this. And then in my 30s, the past 6 years was building NMN Bio, so I invested my time there. So the next natural step for me now at my own pace would be to have a family, for example. Like, I do want to have children and a family, so I would do that next. And then society tells you that, okay, yeah, you do a bit of career, you do education, a bit of career, you do a bit of family, and that's about it. And then you just gonna retire at some point. But okay, well, so I have a family, and then maybe I explore a different industry altogether and make impact there. But like, again, so far I think that my mission is pretty big, that it can keep me busy for another few decades anyway. Right. And I think the natural progression for me beyond supplements and longevity interventions is to think about how do I increase the health and well-being of the whole planet, and how do I realize this, either through education or through, again, changing completely the food supply in the planet, right? Interestingly, I'm already looking into a very interesting protein product that I'm going to launch in Dubai next year. So this is already...
It's not cricket protein.
Yeah, no, it's not cricket protein. No. No, it's going to be a very nice product. Very nutritious and nutrient dense, because that's the thing, right? Like, the carbs and the ultra-processed foods is just empty calories. They're not nutrient-dense, so we have deviated from our primal nutrition, from physiologically relevant nutrition that our body needs, that our body was evolving on for hundreds of thousands of years, which was pretty much, carnivore nutrition, eating animals, and then an occasional berry and mushroom from the forest, and that's about it. So there were no carbs. Carbs got introduced into our supply chain 15,000 years ago with the start of agriculture, because little villages were competing with each other in terms of how many working hands they have and how quickly they can grow. So then they realized with the adoption of agriculture, they can actually feed more workers. This is how agriculture got so popular in the first place. But this is now empty calories. And if we're looking at the historical data in terms of archaeological findings, for example, human remains, we can see in areas where agriculture got introduced, like the shrinkage and the size of the human body, it was moving so quickly because we peaked in size as a human species around 20,000 years ago, where the megafauna was alive, so mammoths and so on. So we were hunting them, we were eating them, access to millions of calories, straight away, nutrient dense. So people back in Europe 20,000 years ago, the average height was like around 2 meters. And then agriculture got introduced, and what happened is we started shrinking in size. And like, you compare the findings all across the world where agriculture was introduced, is the same picture. And you know how fast this process happened, because when you look into the details, it's actually insane. So right now, we all have wisdom teeth, and they don't even fit into our skull anymore. And the reason they don't fit is because our skull shrunk so fast that the teeth haven't adjusted yet.
I managed to keep mine. That's interesting. So, and you think that's directly a correlation because we stopped eating
We stopped eating nutrient-dense foods, so
Which was animals and
so the vitamins
catch.
that we were getting from the carbs were not sufficient to maintain the size that we previously had when the megafauna was alive.
Yeah. Are you more? Do you lean towards more carnivore type?
Yeah, so throughout my lifespan, I actually have experimented with all of the diets. Like I used to be vegan back in 2012 for some time.
I had a season of that too.
But I did a complete 180. Back in 2019, I read the book by Dr. Bickman, Why We Get Sick, and every chapter in that book has a name of a disease. So cancer, neurodegeneration, diabetes, and so on. So I said, okay, interesting book, let me read that. And I actually realized every chapter describes the connection of that disease with insulin resistance. So it all goes back to carbs, it all goes back to eating those nasty carbohydrates, the empty calories. And like the problem became much worse over the past 60 years because we also introduced ultra processing on top of the carbs, right? So all the seed oils and so on that perturb our hormones and so forth. So from 2019, I've been following different variations of low-carb diets. In 2022, I introduced the carnivore diet, and this is what my body is functioning best on. So I'm naturally I'm naturally navigating towards this diet. So at home, I usually just have steaks, butter, eggs, and cheese in my fridge, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did pretty hard carnivore for a while. I noticed my digestive system didn't function as optimal as when I added some either dietary fiber or I just started adding some fruit or some rice in there as well. Then it seemed to make my digestive system work better.
Yeah, I mean, you actually have to adjust the microbiome because there is different microbiome strains that digest fiber and carbs, and then there is different microbiome strains that digest protein and fat. So you kind of need to find a balance on where you want to sit. If you want to go full carnivore and you exclude all fiber and all carbs, those strains, they're going to die out. But then if you reintroduce again, you're going to have digestive problems. The way around it is to actually... So the way around it, and the way I actually did it, because I also had this problem, because when I went full carnivore in 2022 for about 9 months, I was in Thailand, and then I came back to Dubai. And then, Michelin star restaurants and desserts and whatnot. And then I also had digestive problems for a couple of weeks. But the way around it is to just maintain the microbiome strains by consuming just a bit of fiber every day. So, for example, now what I do is I'm still on the carnivore diet, and then I would have just a bit of salad every day, and maybe it can be just like 3-4 small cherry tomatoes. And this will actually be enough to maintain some microbiome that can digest the fiber and an occasional carbohydrate when I want it. Like I want to have like a piece of cake at someone's birthday, I can do it now with no indigestion.
Interesting. I'll try that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Highly recommend.
And you mentioned before you have a desire to have family and stuff. Have you thought about that? Is it like in the traditional framework, or have you got your own unique version of it? I have other friends that have had like super entrepreneurial women, and they've done like a surrogate thing, and then they also just like asked a friend like, hey, do you want to co-parent a kid on that? Where do you feel do you land on that?
No, so I come from the Soviet Union pretty much. I was born in the Soviet Union and come from a traditional family. I do like the traditional family roles in a couple. So I think that for that, I thought about surrogate mothers before and whatnot, but I actually want to have a child myself, at least one. 1 or 2 would be nice.
It's the biggest form of creation that only women can get to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So this is something that resonates with me. If I want to have more kids, it's probably easier to have more than 2 or 3 with a surrogate mother, right? But I still am in favor of a traditional family model. And
then as a doctor, do you subscribe to this, like a lot of women saying the the clock's running out against them? Do you want to freeze eggs and do it so you have this option, or you think
So
it's, in a healthy body you're like, I'm always going to have eggs, I'm going to be fine?
I actually had this conversation with Dr. Lawrence, the peptide bioregulator doctor, 2 years ago. So first of all, my hormones are being maintained optimally at the moment with my nutrition and my supplements. So my hormones are like I'm 20 years old, so I don't feel like the clock is ticking for me. But with Dr. Lawrence, I actually asked him this question, and I said, Dr. Lawrence, with everything that you're seeing from your patients, with the peptide bioregulators, biological age going down, telomerase growing telomeres growing back up in your patients, would you recommend me going through this hormonal treatment to freeze my eggs, or do you actually think if now I'm a healthy woman that still maintains her hormones, I don't have a reason to freeze my eggs? And he said, Elena, I don't think you have a reason to freeze your eggs.
That's awesome.
That's absolutely amazing. And hearing that from a doctor, it's actually, like I agree with him. And I don't want to go through the process. Like I know some women that did, and it's actually a very painful and difficult process to go through, because you need to inject yourself with hormones for days and weeks to get the eggs out, to freeze them. I actually don't see a reason for this. So everything else in my life is set right now, so this would be, having a family would be the last piece of the puzzle with the right person. And so I think that I don't need to do that. I can just have a family of my own the next few years.
I kind of like the idea of having a family at the age of 50. And she's like, all right, I really ticked the box. I did all the things I wanted to do in my entrepreneurial journey, life, traveling, partying when I was younger, whatever. It's like now you come to a place like, this is where I want to put my time into.
This is cool, but at the same time, think of it this way, that actually now, again, we don't have to live one life. So now the way I view it is that, okay, so I can have a family and then I can do something else again, and I'll still be young and I'll still be productive and I'll still be healthy. So that's the thing now. So, yes, exciting times ahead.
And then how long have you been coming to Bali for? This has been a little break spot you come on?
Yeah. So I've been here a couple of times before during summertime, and then when the war started, I just actually I had a friend who was on holiday here from Dubai, my best friend from Dubai.
Yeah.
And then I just came and joined her, and we've been chilling in Bali for the past 3 months.
She's still here also?
Yeah.
And now you're going to go back into the heat?
Yeah, but just for a bit, just for a couple of weeks before flying back to my family in Europe.
Yeah. What do you think of the wellness and the fitness trend that seems to be blowing up here in Bali as well at the moment? Did you get a chance to check out any of the gyms or facilities?
Yes. I think that it's great that people are actually putting more accent into their health and more, they're more conscious about their health. And I think that this also has to do with the fact that the current food supply chain and the current conditions that are being considered as something normal globally, they're actually not serving us, right? Because everyone is getting insulin resistance, everyone is getting obese, everyone is having their fertility going down. So now there is a group of people, including the ones that are coming to Bali, that are more conscious about their body and about its maintenance, basically. I think that Bali has a wonderful crowd, to be honest.
Yeah, it's very dynamic. I don't know anywhere else in the world that quite has the soup of availability that Bali offers, from health and fitness, spirituality, healing, nature, community. It's definitely a little time-stamp period in Bali where it kind of feels like it's the best it's ever been.
Absolutely. Beautiful place.
Yeah.
I'll definitely come back again.
I guess to wrap this up, is there anything else that you're excited in that's coming out, whether it's stem cells, senolytics, peptides, exosomes, gene therapy? We didn't even get to touch on the whole mitochondrial side of things as well, but is there anything that you got your eye on that's coming out in that field that you're like, that's...
I guess that for me, it's all about the delivery systems when it comes to supplements. Some of them work, some of them don't work. So, for example, people take liposomal supplements and they think it's better delivery system. Sometimes it's not. And it depends on the quality of the liposomes, their size and whatnot. But I'm actually excited to see what other innovative forms of deliveries we can get. And the reason for this is because for me, like I always optimize for ease of use as well. That's the reason why I said that, you know, all of our products are in capsules and it's just very easy to ingest the capsule and that's it. There are some supplements that are being delivered in transdermal patches, for example, but again, there we also hit a problem because, for example, for NMN, there is no receptor on our scale that would actually absorb the NMN. So an NMN patch would be useless, right?
I've been seeing peptide patches of late as well.
I've seen them.
Skeptical.
Like yes, very skeptical. Yeah, but I'm sure that we'll see a lot of innovation again because now we can utilize AI and make progress like much faster in everything. So stay tuned.
And if someone wants to buy your supplements, where can they find them?
We ship globally from our main website, nmnbio.co.uk. In the UK, they can find it on boots.com as well. They can find it in all major online supplement platforms as well, pharmacy and Selfridges. And then in the UAE, it's pretty much in every corner, I would say.
Did you end up getting your packages here?
No, it's still stuck in customs, and I'm leaving tomorrow. So I don't know, like some really fit Indonesian customs guys will be taking the NMN for the foreseeable future.
Let me know. Maybe I can help you.
Yes. So in the UAE, Aster Pharmacies, Supercare, Benzina, Dubai Duty Free, everywhere pretty much you can get our pharmacies online, half-an-hour delivery. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram, NMN Bio, and myself, Dr. Elena Saranova, to stay up to date with all of the longevity interventions. And with that, I actually have a gift for you today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is our brochure for our products.
I can't wait to try these, actually. I was sad that you'd run out when we met.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do about this. And then the gift that is actually priceless is something that was blessed by the Dalai Lama himself. So I hope that it brings you joy, good energy, and success in all the areas of your life that you
Thank you. I remember these in Nepal. Remind me, what do they represent?
They it's just a physical object to remind you that you are blessed. So you just put it around your hand, and it's like a bracelet, and it's supposed to be there for as long as it needs to be.
Until it falls off.
Yes, until it falls off itself.
Matches your dress too. Thank you so much.
Yes,
well, it was
absolutely.
Amazing.
Thank you for having me.
To get to know you deeper on this chat and this conversation.
Okay.
I wish you a safe flight back to Dubai, and I hope you come back here very soon.
Thank you.
I think you will. If not, I might come and see you in October.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Done.
Okay. Hey.